All right, so for this one, I'm just going to show the fire animation on how I set up particle effects. I had to do quite a bit for this one. So I created particle effects for smoke and fireball. Um, this is the particle editor that I basically use, so I can adjust and set my emissions and all the fun stuff. And then for setting up for the particles to either be attached to a specific body like the fireball or to come from a specific location like from the nostrils of the dragon and then be able to destroy them and use them with pooling, so I'm not adding like a bunch of memory. Okay, so in my entity manager, I have added a method where I can create a projectile that I can link up with all the pieces that I want. And I have where I can make a particle effect. I actually have three methods. So either I have an X and Y position that I'm going to attach it to that location, or I have a body that I can attach it to either with offsets or without offsets. Okay. And then this is so that if I want it to be attached to something, I can set it and assign that body to it so that it will follow with it. So it works really similar to like my render, except I have this going above my normal rendering, so the particles are always on top. Particle effect. Here's the component, which is using pooling for the particles and the components themselves. So the component is going to end up holding that pooled effect, and then I have a system and a manager. So my particle effect manager, which is basically setting that space. I can set a capacity for what I want for adding those particle effects and setting for scale and all that fun stuff. So this happens in my entity manager when I initially create the entity manager. I'm assigning, so for like the fire type, I'm assigning that file for it. It's just basically like a JSON file, and I can use the scale of how big I'm going to have it. So then that's getting partitioned, and then I can basically just pull that and add that to it. So for my particle effect, I am pulling that particle effect, and then I can add it to the individual pieces based off the type. So this gets linked up to the projectile when I'm in the body area, because I need the body for it. And body. Okay, so let me hurry up and get down to the bottom. When I add the body to it for the fireball here, I'm then adding the projectile because I need that body component. And then I can set my X and Y velocity for that. So for this, I'm actually assigning a velocity. So my system, my particle effect system, then this is pulling anything that has a particle effect. I'm rendering, so I'm using my sprite batch and I'm going for the particles and then drawing them. And then for processing each entity that has a particle effect, if it's dead, then I'm setting the time till death, and that's the delay I have in the component of 1/4 of a second. And then if it's attached, then I'm having it where it's following the body. If the particle effect is complete or that time till death is 0, then that's when it's getting removed completely. So I'll show, I have the dragon and the first screen that loads up, so you'll be able to see the smoke, and then you'll be able to see him shooting the fireballs. Fireballs are happening using a new system that I created, a projectile system, which I'm probably going to end up switching the arrows to that too. but this is looking for any projectile component, and then it's basically taking the position of the player and then the position of where it's trying to shoot or where it's shooting from, and then it's firing towards it. So what I'm doing here is I'm basically, if it's more than 20 units away from the player, that's when I'm going to end up setting it to dead. And then once it's dead, then I can destroy the body and remove it from the world. Here is where I'm getting that that projectile body and then setting the velocity for it. So let's go ahead and play this so you can see that happening. Okay, so the projectile, you ended up seeing the particle effect on the nostrils of the dragon and on the fireballs. So when I have the dragon, when he's in his pause state, that is when I am getting doing the particle effect. So I'm calling for the smoke particle effect, and then I'm getting the position of the dragon, and then I'm adjusting so that I can get for the nostrils. And then I am creating that particle effect and then calling that component so that I can use that and destroy it when he gets ready to, if he does something like, so if he does a force push, then I can set those to destroy, and then if he gets ready to go into the attack, then that's also going to set it up. So just before he gets ready to go into attack, then it's going to destroy them, and then he's going into his attack animation and getting ready to launch the next fireball. All right.